Let's talk about communication. Tishan's, I'm going into her area of strength, and I'm a neophyte, right? So, but I have I have a dogma. The worst form of communicating to anyone is by email. The next worst form is by telephone. The best form is face-to-face. So let me reverse that. The best start off with the best way of communicating anything is by face-to-face interaction. The next best is by telephone. And the worst of the three is by email, right? Fine. So we should keep that in mind. So anytime you have to deliver a bad message or good news, or if you always think, can I go see that person face to face? Always think that. In our society today, we default to the worst one, right? Email, right? Or WhatsApp, right? So that is what we use the most. Then the next most would be telephone. And then the least would be face to face. So we need to make sure that we keep that order in mind. So you have to use the telephone, obviously, right? So I had to call Obin, and I invited him to come and speak to me. So he said, I come to Jamaica once a year, so I'm coming to North America, so I'll come and see you, right? So the point is, I didn't want to talk to him over the phone. I just wanted to get him to come and see me, or I go see him, right? Face to face. Then I could sell the vision. Firstly, every Jamaican immigrant, every Jamaican member of the diaspora, they yearn to come back to Jamaica. If there's a reason and they feel secure, they'll come, right? Because that is the natural gravity is to be here. Natural gravity. Can you imagine how bad it is, right? That's how terrible a job we have done to repulse everybody, us who want to come and still don't come. So anyway, so face-to-face communication. So I just sold him the vision. We have a fantastic platform here. So most people would have seen NCB as an organization that had to be bailed out by the government, so it had a bad reputation. They would have seen it as being inefficient. They would have seen it as the country had no confidence in the bank. That was the reputation. So now I had to show the vision that, look, those are advantages. I have 3 preconditions that I always honor before I jump. The first is there has to be a difference between perception and reality, right? Because only when there is a difference between perception and reality can you create outsized wealth. In other words, the opposite of that is if there's no difference between perception and reality. In other words, if everybody knows the same thing, there's no opportunity to create any wealth, right? So there must be a difference between perception and reality. The second precondition is there must be inefficiencies, because only when there are inefficiencies can you create outsized wealth. The flip side of that is if everything is already efficient, you can't create any wealth. And the third is there must be a lack of capital going into the area. Because the flip side of that is if lots of capital going into an area, it's going to drive the price up, drive margins down, and you can't create any wealth. So I start off with that premise, right? So once that's a framework. You with me? So now, once you are ensconced in that way of thinking, when you speak to someone, you flip their paradigm, because didn't you get it immediately? Right? So therefore, as entrepreneurs, we should be hunters for the difference between perception and reality. We should be hunters for inefficiencies. We should be hunters for what? Areas where there's lack of capital, because that's where we're going to make lots of money. So now, armed with that perspective. I think it's difficult to encourage someone to be hunters for inefficiencies, lack of perception, reality, etc., etc. So that's the conversation we had. We had to lay the framework first. So now, I'll give you an example of what I'm doing right now, because I'm a hunter for those three things. So, what's my most recent venture? The one you read about two days ago in the newspaper. Agriculture. Agriculture.
Yes.
Is there a difference between perception and reality? What's your perception of agriculture in Jamaica? Stunted. So let's go through the framework. The first precondition, does it meet precondition number 1? Agriculture.
Yes.
Now, does it meet precondition number 2? Is it inefficient? Yes. Does it meet precondition number 3? Yes. So what should all of us be doing? So now you see, once you have a framework, you can encourage people to do things that they would not normally have thought of. That's what got Mr. Hill here. You with me? How am I going to operationalize it?
There's a large import bill for produce.
They import $1 billion. So why isn't everybody in agriculture?
Yes. So one person, she gave me a recommendation I think is really clever. And I'm thinking it has to do with health and beauty. So I'm thinking about doing that. But it's something that's not too attractive because I'm so far away from the land.
But you see that you have a problem also. You won't have scale.
What?
You will not have scale. So your cost of production is going to be very high. That's a problem. I'll walk you through, right, how starting with a framework, the 3 preconditions, guided me to agriculture. Right? I just went through that. So now let's talk about operationalizing it now. First, in Jamaica, we import $1 billion worth of food every year. And the more hotels they build, the more food we'll have to import. So I don't need to go out and get the first $1 billion in revenues. It's here. Wow, I don't need to go hunt too far. And the government would love to slap import duties on food to preserve foreign exchange. They would love to. Wow! How much better could it get? Eh? No. So that's the concept. Now let's look at, so now you have to operationalize it. Well, if I could, and the hypothesis is, if I could have in Jamaica the low cost structure of Israel, an Israeli farmer, is that the bullseye? Israel exports a lot of food to the United States. So if I can get the same cost structure as Israel in Jamaica, my cost of transportation is way less than Israel. So I immediately have a higher margin than the Israeli farmers. Eh? I'm closer to the market. So the hypothesis is, if I could replicate Israeli cost structure here, bingo, I'm gone. Bring immigrants here. No, for equipment and the people. And the people, so that we can transfer knowledge. I'm not just going to bring the equipment, because you give untrained people, whatever their formula is, bring it to Jamaica. There's a lot to be done. So here, but I didn't want to get into agriculture, right? Because that's not my area. But I'm the chairman of the Economic Growth Council, and I'm frustrated with that. You know why? Because I have had over 500 meetings with ministries, departments, and agencies deep into the bowels of the bureaucracy, with ministers, NGOs, commissioners, army, customs, tax, and you would have seen my frustration in the 9th quarterly report when I said, you know what, we should fire the non-performing permanent secretaries. This is crazy, right? You know, nobody wants to talk about the hard things in Jamaica, right? And the permanent secretaries are the ones who execute policies. Ministers, they dream up the policies, and the permanent secretary have to execute them. I didn't want to get into agriculture, but I realized that we're not getting the growth that we should be getting because there's too much distance, too many people between what we say and what we do. So we come and have meetings at the EGC, everybody get jazzed up, and they do nothing. So I said, you know what? I'm the one who put the number out there, 5 and 4. If I have to do it myself, I'm going to do it. So, if you think about any economy, any developed economy, think about it in terms of a pyramid. The base of the pyramid is agriculture. You fly over any country, and you will see nicely farmed green rectangular plots, some green, some brown, right? Neat. You fly over Jamaica, what you see? Chaka chaka, right? That's what you see, chaka chaka, right? If we do an introspection, how do we stack up? If agriculture should be the base, we know what is happening everywhere else, and we see what is happening in Jamaica. How do we stack up? We're dysfunctional, right at the base. Above the base of the pyramid, you have manufacturing. Okay, how do we stack up in terms of manufacturing in Jamaica? Dysfunctional. Above that, we have services. How do we stack up? A little better, but not good. So you look at the pyramid, and boy, opportunities. So I said, agriculture, I'm going to tackle agriculture. So I went and I leased 2,860 acres of land. 2,860 at Innswood. And I brought these Israeli farmers in. And we're now laying the pipes to put in irrigation. And we're going to produce. And agriculture, when we do the spreadsheet, and we look at the profitability, I'm thinking, what the hell? Are we stupid? Are we stupid? So what I'm going to do, I said to myself, I'm going to make $1 billion US out of agriculture in Jamaica, and then everybody's going to say, what the hell? Are we stupid? Let me run into it. So I'm here to catalyze it. I don't want to be in it, but I'm going to catalyze it and make a lot of money, and then other people come in, so we can go cash crops. Then once we have some cash flow, we now go to medium term and long term. Long term would be like teak as an example. And that takes 5-8 years, but the world demand for teak is high, and it's very profitable. So it's just doing it in a way that is rational, that's scaled, right? We have cost of production, we have good security, right? Security was part of the design, right? So that we can build a model that other Jamaicans can say, all we have to do is plug into that model and do the same. And 5 years from now, we'll transform agriculture in Jamaica. We didn't have to think about export. Just produce. But you think about it now. So let's talk about entrepreneurial opportunities, downstream entrepreneurial opportunities from agriculture. Storage.
Warehousing.
Transportation, storage. Packaging. What else? These are all opportunities that will emanate. Agro-processing. And these are all opportunities that will emanate from just one industry, done well on an industrial scale. We are a nation of traders. We're not investors. We're not farmers. We're traders. If we're confident that Jamaica is still embryonic in its growth because of the bad stewardship that we have applied to the country for the last 40 years, if we are confident, and what we're seeing in 4 years, can you imagine? Look at what we have seen in 4 years. Look, roads, cranes, right? Debt to GDP coming down from 147 to 93%. What the hell? Interest rates at a historical low, inflation at any, right? What the hell were we doing before? It's like we're idiots. So now we are at the beginning, right? If we are confident that Jamaica, 5 years from now, we'll be way near that inflection point, right? And 5 years from now, more and more foreign investors will come in because the Jamaica Stock Exchange is the best in the world for the last 5 years, right? Everybody's now knowing that. We just had a Trans-Jamaica, it's oversubscribed by 4 times, right? So Jamaica is a focus now, but we are here, and the inefficiencies are enormous. So the point is, even though you may not have capital, you have a brain, right? So you just now need to figure out who has the capital and then tag team the capital with the brain. Once you have ideas and you think your idea is true, capital is in Jamaica. The need is here. I just give you a simple one, agriculture. But you see, most people wouldn't come to the conclusion that agriculture is great because they don't start off with a framework. You start off with a framework and say, okay, that's my framework. I'm not going to hunt for inefficiencies. Nobody likes inefficiencies. So why would you You have to be obtuse to be hunting for inefficiencies. Perception versus reality. Perception is there's no money to be made in agriculture. That's the perception. Isn't that the perception? Rich people, the children, they send them abroad, and most of them don't want to come back. 20, 30 years ago, in Jamaica, they had like 23 families. With the 23 families that control the economy. Now, that's if you look at who those families were then, 90% of them no longer. Be willing to swim upstream because you're being driven by your purpose.